had a lot of fun with a lot of Star Kid content, but let's get back to the basics, okay? We're getting back to a regular old reading vlog. I'm gonna give updates on books I've read over the last month, books I've listened to on audiobook. I'm gonna talk about my summer TBR list, and then we're gonna end this vlog with a readathon of Just for the Summer. I've been saving this book. I got it as my book of the month book for, I think, April? Yeah, April. And I was like, well, excuse me, this is a summer book. But this is Memorial Day weekend, and here in the Midwest, we kind of consider Memorial Day weekend as like the beginning of summer. I guess it's like probably all over the US people consider that. All the beaches are opening up, all the park bathrooms are opening. So anyway, I'm gonna start my summer TBR list with Just for the Summer. But let's dive in. Okay, since we last spoke, I think I've read 6 or 7 books. Something was crawling on me. Let me share my thoughts on some of these books. In one of my vlogs, I shared that I finally decided to read Anne of Green Gables for the first time in my freaking life. And it was okay. Just kidding. I loved it so much that I read it really slow. I was like, it was precious to me. Like I'd pick it up and I'd start reading some chapters and I'd go, Meredith, stop. You're reading too fast. You're reading too much. Savor it. So I read it over the course of like a week. Savored every minute, sobbed my eyes out at the end, even though I knew what happened because I've seen the 1980s TV thing. But it was so beautiful and special, and I see why people reread it every spring. Anne of Green Gables is cozy. It's whimsical. She's just a very special character, changes a lot of lives and warms a lot of hearts, including the readers. Mine. My heart was warmed. Then I reread Pride and Prejudice. I packed this to go to England because it's small, fit right in my purse. It's familiar, and when I'm traveling and I have travel anxiety and I'm experiencing a lot of new things, and I wanted something familiar and cozy and comforting to read in my spare time. So I started it in England and then I finished it via audiobook when I got back. As always, I mean, I've read it, I've probably read this book like 6 times. It's just the best, you know? It's probably my favorite book. Then I read Beltane. This is part of that series that I got, the book series on all the different pagan rituals. So I wanted to read Beltane for the beginning of May, and it was awesome. I've learned that this is the horniest of the pagan rituals, and this, in general, late April, early May is apparently the horniest time of year. Learned a lot from this book. And then this was my May book of the month book. It's called Middletide. I have a lot of really mixed feelings about this book. It is a murder mystery. It is set in the Pacific Northwest. The protagonist is a guy. He leaves his hometown and his cabin that he grew up in to try and like make it big in the city, and now it's years later and he's come back, decided to start homesteading in this cabin. All of that was so beautiful and fun and relaxing to read. At first I thought it was a little overwritten and I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this, but I got used to it, and I just ended up enjoying just reading these descriptions of nature and homesteading and farming and gardening. All that was really nice. The mystery itself was pretty weak / wacky. And then the biggest problem I had with this book is that this author, who I still don't know a lot about the author herself, this is her first book. It says so at the end of the book. She made up a fake Native American tribe for this book and represented them in a way that wasn't very justified. And then there were also a couple of really problematic lines, one of which I have it pretty much memorized. Squalama was the name of the fake tribe that she made up, and this man was like, your mother wasn't Squalama, but she might as well have been. She had the magic in her. And I'm like, no. It was just like, made me a little uncomfortable. It was just a little problematic. Overall, I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Oh, hi, this is just me sitting amongst our spinach and arugula that I'm growing in our garden. Anyway, I wanted to talk to you about all the different audiobooks that I listened to. Okay, so first I listened to Tress of the Emerald Sea. I never gave y'all an update on that, but I absolutely loved it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The only reason it wasn't a perfect 5 was because I felt like they were kind of stuck in one setting and like one mindset for a little too long. It's a Brandon Sanderson book. It was my first Brandon Sanderson. It was recommended to me by a few of you, and it was so much fun, and it reminded me so much of The Princess Bride, and I got my friend Arilla to read it as well. And Arilla, of course, did some research, and apparently Brandon Sanderson wrote this book because he wanted to write a book that was inspired by Princess Bride, as though Wesley and Buttercup had switched places. So yeah, it was just very fun. The narrator was super fun. He just was very playful. I absolutely loved every second of it. Brian got interested in Brandon Sanderson. Once he heard that I was listening to a Brandon Sanderson audiobook, he was like, I want to do one as well. So we're also listening to Warbreaker. Warbreaker is a much longer sort of fantasy novel. It's a 25-hour long audiobook, and since Brian and I are listening together, we really only listen when we like eat a meal or when we're in the car together. So we're very slowly making our way through. We have 9 hours left, but we're having fun. Then I listened to The Marsh King's Daughter. This was a recommendation from my dear friend Michelle, because when we were visiting her in northern Michigan a couple months ago, I said that I was writing a book and that it was a mystery set up in the UP, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And she was like, oh, then you should read The Marsh King's Daughter. And I see why she thought that. Though The Marsh King's Daughter, it's got a murder mystery to it. It is definitely a thriller, and it was so scary. It's a book about a woman who was raised in captivity. She was born to her mom, who had been kidnapped by a man, and they were being held in captivity. So she was born and raised in the marshlands of the Upper Peninsula, didn't know that her dad was a kidnapper. So it was a really interesting exploration of like her feelings about her dad, because he raised her and he raised her a certain way. And the book is now set in the future when her dad has escaped from jail. So obviously like her and her mom are rescued at some point, and her dad has escaped from jail and he's now hiding in the marshlands again of the Upper Peninsula, and she knows she's the only one who can find him because she was raised by him. She knows his ways. She knows how to navigate the marsh. It flips back and forth between the past, where you learn about what it was like for her being raised in captivity to an abusive man, and also the future when she is looking for him. It was a really good book for what it was. It was so scary to me. I don't do well with those. There was a lot of violence and a lot of animal violence and animal death. They're hunting animals and they describe the hunting, and then also I had to use doesthedogdie.com, and you can use it as well if you want to look into whether or not you want to read this book and if that might affect your choice. It was scary. Then I listened to A Psalm for the Wild Built. I was listening to it in my gardening vlog, and a lot of you commented that it's one of your favorite books. What a perfect book to listen to while gardening. I 100% agree. It was such a perfect book. It's really short. The audiobook is only 4 hours long. It's a little mini sci-fi, and it's basically just a sweet conversation between a monk and a robot. It was so thoughtful, so sweet. Definitely a great like springtime gardening-esque book. It really was perfect to listen to while I was planting herbs. My God, what a great choice I made that day. And there's a second one that Brian and I are going to listen to together, because he listened to A Psalm for the Wild Built last year and loved it, so I knew I wanted to read it. It's perfect. Then I listened to the new Emily Henry book. I had to wait till May 4th when our Audible credits renewed, because it wasn't available on any of my library apps, and I needed the audiobook because I have all of her other audiobooks and they're all narrated by Julia Whalen, who Brian and I love. So on May 4th I immediately downloaded it and started listening, and I loved it. It was back to OG Hen, because I loved her first 3 books, but I did not like A Happy Place. I don't know about you all, but I just didn't like the premise, and I thought the relationship was really toxic. But I loved Funny Story, and it's set in northern Michigan. Could that be any more perfect? She works for a library, he works for a winery. What a fucking dream. And he wasn't a super masculine man. He was like a very sensitive guy, which I loved it so much. It was a perfect, cute little cheesy romance with all the tropes. And now I figured I'd show you almost my entire summer TBR. I have a few more books that I'm going to listen to on audiobook, but actually I need more. I need more audiobook recommendations, because I listen to about an audiobook every week, and I'm gonna fly through my audiobooks. So if anybody has any summer book recommendations, please let me know. Okay, let's quickly fly through these. Dragon Fruit is a YA book that was part of the Book of the Month options that I didn't choose, but I was so intrigued by it that I went back and looked, and I was like, oh, people are loving it. I'm definitely gonna get it. Killers of a Certain Age. My sister-in-law Tan loved this book, so she gave it to me to borrow. I had to get another Barbara Kingsolver book because I freaking loved Demon Copperhead so much. I was like, I have to read more of her, and my friend recommended Prodigal Summer as one of her favorite books, so I got it from a Libris, got it used. Daughter of Molokai is the sequel to Molokai, which I read years ago and absolutely loved, and it's just been sitting on our shelf and I haven't touched it, and I was like, I gotta go visit our bookshelf and see what I haven't read. This is the next Gamache book, Louise Penny's The Long Way Home, and it's set in the summer. Okay, you actually can't read this, can you? Daisy Fate and the Miracle Man used to be one of my absolute favorite books. I used to reread it like almost every year. I haven't read it in years and years. I got it used off of Alibris, and I'm gonna reread it and see if I still love it the way I used to. It's definitely a summer book. Summer's Child by Diane Chamberlain was in our little free library out front, and I was like, I'm gonna look it up. And I had pretty good reviews, but I don't know anything about Diane Chamberlain. So if anybody knows, do y'all like her books? Has anyone read Summer's Child? Should I even read this, or should I put it back in the library? I don't know. And then I have the 2 summer pagan ritual books that I'm going to read about. Midsummer and Lugnasad? I actually don't know how to pronounce this. Okay, apparently it's pronounced Lunasa. Anyway, Midsummer is summer solstice. Lugnasad is the August one. I'll have to look this up. I'm learning. It's why I got the books. Alright, that's it for all my book updates. I know that was a lot, but hopefully somebody found it fun. Tomorrow, I have no plans. I kept my schedule free. I've saved this book for this weekend, and I've said no to everything tomorrow, Saturday. It's gonna be a beautiful sunny day, and I'm gonna do nothing all day except read just for the summer. I read Abby Jimenez's other book, Yours Truly, last year and couldn't put it down. Absolutely loved it. It was one of my favorite romances I've ever read. My favorite male love interest that I'd ever read. And then I read Part of Your World, which is also kind of part of this universe. Anyway, this is the 3rd book in that universe, and I'm just so excited. I just know I'm gonna love it. Tan has already read it. She absolutely loves it. The reviews are incredible, and summertime just feels like a time for a nice, cheesy, simple romance. You know? Join me as I read as much of this book in one day as possible. I might read the whole book in one day. Who knows? But it's gonna be a day of readathon. Oh my gosh, and I also have to add something else. Tomek, who's the biggest sweetie in the whole fucking world, wrote me a song to use in my vlogs. He named it Merididi, and it's the sweetest, most cute little song. So that's gonna be the music for this whole vlog, is all Merididi by Tomek. It's the sweetest, most amazing gift. I'm so thankful to him. Tomek, I love you so much, and I couldn't think of a better song for a reading vlog. Anyway, thank y'all for joining me. Let's read just for the summer. To water the garden, make some coffee, and then I'm gonna start my readathon. I forgot I had to make more oat milk because we're making oat milk for my no plastic challenge. So I'm finishing this up, and then I'm gonna make my coffee, and then I'm gonna read all day.
Let the reading begin. Eyeball scanning words on a page. Let the readathon begin. It's so fun to read in peace. Let the readathon begin. Let the readathon begin.
Papa Coco, you're a Coco doggy. You're a Coco doggy with a Coco daddy. A Coco doggy with a Coco daddy. Got a beach one dada.
One chapter in, and it's already funny and cute.
It's a readathon.
Okay, I'm on chapter 5, page 49. Brian made his breakfast, so time for a little break. Okay, y'all, so the premise of this book is that these 2 people, man and woman, both feel like they have a curse on them where everybody they date breaks up with them and then immediately meets the person they're gonna marry. They found each other through the internet because the guy posted about his curse and she saw it and was like, hey, I have that same curse. They don't live in the same state, but she's a traveling nurse, so it's a possibility.
More like a traveling curse.
She's got traveling nurse with a traveling curse.
It's a readathon.
So now they're, scheming. They're scheming like, oh, well, if we date each other, then immediately after dating each other, we'll find our soulmates. So very cheesy, very cutesy.
That's risky.
I'm loving it. She's the reason I like Abby Jimenez is because she's so freaking funny. And also, she doesn't do a lot of that thing where it's like, hey, just be honest with each other. Like, people aren't really lying to each other. There are definitely misunderstandings, but they're not like the frustrating ones when you're like, this is dumb.
Like if two characters just like were like, oh, no, I was late because my leg fell off. Then it would be
exactly.
Everyone would be like, okay, yeah, your leg fell off, so I guess that's fine. I thought you just didn't care. No. My leg, it was on my body and then it fell off and I had to go to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, in the bad version, the guy's like, God, she's so mad at me. She doesn't even care that my leg fell off. By the way, it's obvious. I've only got one leg right now. And there's just a bloody stump where my other one was. If you cut any of this, it's over between us. Don't cut it. But do you see the lines of the bowl that they were in?
Yes.
The Benetton.
It's so fucking beautiful, Brian.
It smells really good too.
Oh my god. Yum, Brian. Okay, we're walking Luna right now. This is the most movement I'll get all day. When we get home, I'm gonna shower and I'm gonna get in the hammock. That might be where I live for the rest of the day. Brian might join me. He's rereading Lord of the Rings, and he might do some readathoning as well. Walking Luna right now is really hard because I don't know if y'all know, but Illinois is going through a cicada phenomenon where there's like a merging of, is it 2 or 3 different types of cicadas?
I think there's 2 broods. One is a 13-year brood, one is a 17-year. So cicadas live underground, over a decade. 13 years and 17 years for these 2 types of cicada. But they're converging and all coming out this summer for the biggest summer bash.
Yeah, so right now underneath my feet are dozens and dozens of dead cicadas. The reason why it's hard to walk Luna, she's stopping and eating them constantly. She's eating so many cicadas every day. Dozens of cicadas are going down Luna's fucking gullet. All right, I'll show you a shot of a cicada tree. Trigger warning, and it will last 3 seconds. Skip ahead if you don't like to see cicadas. I think they're fascinating, and this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, so I'm having fun with it, and so is Luna. I just took a shower. I'm heating up some water to make some iced tea for us. Brian grabbed Lord of the Rings, and we're gonna set up the hammock and we're just gonna sit out there. It's perfect weather for like sweater and shorts, which is my favorite weather in the whole world. High 60s, low 70s with a breeze. It's my favorite weather. By the way, while showering and like making coffee and doing all that stuff this morning, I've been listening to The Stand-In, which is an Audible original audiobook. It's also free to download if you have Audible already, by Lily Chu, and it's narrated by Philippa Sue. I listened to this author's other free Audible book, The Takedown, a few months ago in the wintertime, and I really liked it. I mean, they're definitely cheesy and they're full of tropes, but like I said, I'm just like in the mood for romances. The Takedown was a perfect winter book. Stand-In is set in the summer. They're both set in Toronto. I just really like it. I really like Philippa's narration. She's super casual, which I like. I don't like when an audiobook narrator is like really intense. Enough about that book. We need to get back to Just for the Summer. Okay, I'm on page 107, so I'm about a quarter of the way through. It's a 400-page book. I'm loving every second of it. It's just so cute and funny, but also thoughtful. I think I'm gonna see if Brian wants to bike to Taco Bell with me. We can get Taco Bell and then continue readathoning. The cicadas are starting to sing. Everything is so beautiful right now. It's the perfect temperature. It's just the best day. Taco Bell time. Switch it up and lay in the sun for a little bit. Ah, Luna's joining me. That's the perfect spot. It's 4 p.m. I'm on page 303. I only have about 100 pages left. It's just a really good book. But I'm snacky, so I'm going to eat some of Brian's sourdough that he made. Shit, I forgot to show you all the sourdough, but it's like his best loaf yet. It's so soft. I ate it right up. Brian brought me some wine to sip. Hey everybody, I'm going to tell you my thoughts on the book. I'll start with stuff that doesn't include spoilers. Okay, I fucking loved it. It was perfect front to back. I absolutely loved every second of it. Finishing it in one day was a privilege and a joy. It has a sensitive male protagonist love interest.
Boo.
He's funny, he's thoughtful, he's kind.
Boo.
The woman protagonist was also awesome. She's exploring and unpacking some stuff for sure throughout the book, but she's a great funny person as well. So it was just a joy, and their relationship was very healthy and good, and they used a lot of great communication tools. Luna might be eating a bee. For those who haven't read the book and you want to read it, you can stop watching now because now I'm going to talk about spoilers. Okay, for everybody who's read the book, did you love it? I loved it. Okay, when Justin's mom went to jail, that was so freaking heartbreaking. I cried my eyes out. And then when his guy friends were like, hey, we got you tickets to Mall of America, just go have fun with your siblings, and we're gonna completely redo the room so that it's more your taste. Whew, that had me crying. The idea of staying in Minnesota in a cabin on an island in the middle of a lake sounded like my fucking dream. So I loved that setting. I had a very clear picture in my head. I also had a clear picture of who the characters were, and I'm curious, do y'all ever do celebrities? When you imagine characters, do you imagine real people, or do you make up people? I like to imagine real people. I usually cycle through the same people. Simu Liu as the guy, as Justin. Cozy K. Kennedy as the girl. I imagine them as characters in romance books all the time. Abby Jimenez always has this kind of 11th hour conflict, and I usually get really stressed for it. I think because I plowed through this one, it wasn't as bad. I thought the one in yours truly, I was like, oh no, I can't have this 11th hour conflict. I just want them to get together. But this one I really appreciated. Romances often have the tropes of I had a hard childhood, or I lost a parent, or my parent is sick, or my parent sucks. But they don't explore it far enough, and they just kind of sprinkle it in. And I feel like Abby Jimenez does a deeper dive, which I really appreciate. I love the summertime vibes. I even really liked the scene when they went and had dinner with her mom and her mom's new boyfriend, who ended up being freaking Neil from Part of Your World. There was a lot of, Tom called it incestual book stuff. A lot of overlap between the characters, so if you've read all three, you know what I'm talking about. I loved that he ordered in lobster, and that they were grilling lobster and then swimming in a pool. That was so fun to me. Great summertime vibes. Luna might eat that bee. I think that's about it. Perfect readathon book. Perfect, I'm gonna just read this in one day book. It didn't take all day. I finished it at 6, so I wasn't up late reading it or anything. And I was still able to go on a walk and for a bike ride to go get Taco Bell. Great
All
book.
dreams achieved.
All dreams achieved. Can't recommend it enough. I can't wait for Brian to read it. Brian's listening to Funny Story right now. Do you like it, Bri?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I like all the Northern Michigan stuff.
I know. Alright. Love y'all. If you watched this whole video, you like books and you're a nerd like me.